Shalom uvracha, here on Thursday morning from one of the SAR Zoom rooms, and I hope everyone is well. I hope everyone is feeling well, and all those who are not feeling well, we wish them a refuah shlema. We wish them good health, and all those who are in the hospital for various reasons throughout our state, throughout our country, and throughout the world, we wish them a refuah shlema. And we also have especially in mind our one of the leading voices of our community, Rabbi Jonathan Sachs. We wish him a refuah shlema and complete recovery as he's undergoing treatment for cancer in the next few weeks. This week is Parshat Noach, which is chock full, and one of the major literary themes that the Bible discusses, of course, is the Mabul, the flood, as well as the waters. It's not just the flood from the waters that are on the ground, the rivers, but also the Arubot HaShamayim, the waters from the rains that overtake. And one of the interesting things is that the Tanakh makes it very clear that what the Mabul is basically an uncreation. It's the undoing of creation. If you go back to the beginning of Parshat Bereshit, last week's parasha, so the world started as a kind of primordial soup. V'ha'aretz hayta tohu v'avo, v'ruach Elohim merachefet al pnei ha'aretz. The world was this kind of primordial soup, and the Spirit of God was resting, was floating above the waters, whatever that means. And then the process of creation is a process of separation. The upper waters and the lower waters get separated. So what was once like this, and all the water was together, is now separated into heavens and earth, heavens and the seas. We also have in the subsequent day, v'teira'eh hayabasha, the world becomes uncovered. The land masses emerge out of the sea, and we see the land masses, and then eventually continues with the growth, the vegetation on the land masses, and then eventually it is populated by human beings, and it's populated by animals and birds and fish and everything else. And of course, in the context of that, on day 4, we have light and darkness. We have days, which are once again mentioned. The process of and of course it culminates with the blessing to the human being, Peru urvu mil'u et ha'aretz, fill the land with population, fill the land with life, fill the land with activity, mil'u et ha'aretz v'chivshuha, conquer the land. The book of Parshat Noach begins, of course, with a total reversal. Instead of God seeing a world which is tov ma'od, we have the word ra for the first time. Vayar Hashem ki rabba ra'at ha'aretz ha'adam ba'aretz. V'chol yetzer machshavot libo rak ra kol hayom. That's what God sees. God sees, instead of good, God sees ra. And God decides to destroy this world, to bring it back to its original state. And the Bible describes at the beginning of this week's parasha, Vatishachet ha'aretz lifnei Elohim, the land became corrupt. Vatimale haaretz chamas, in place of pru urvu umil'u et haaretz, bring life and success and civilization to the whole world. Instead, it's full of chamas, it's full of violence and conflict. And so God destroys the world. And again, in the context of this, what you have is the uncreation. So instead of the land being seen and the upper and the lower waters separated, what basically happens in the Mabul is a slow erosion of that. You have the human beings and the animals are taken off the land. The ones who remain are destroyed, and the other ones are taken off the land. The land slowly becomes uninhabitable. The land, of course, receives the torrent of rain and receives the tehomot, the springs that well up. And the Bible basically describes this kind of commingling a reversal of creation, where there's no longer seen any land. And that's why the Bible makes it very clear, and it uses creation language, that everybody entered into the ark. The ark is the last remnant of life left. There's animals and there's fish. And there's birds and there's human beings and there's food. Everything called Sipor. But the Mabul grows and grows. Vayigberu hamayim, the water kept rising. Vayirbu mod al haaretz, v'hamayim gavru mod al haaretz, vayichusu kol ha'arim hagvoim. All the land that in Genesis had been revealed was now covered. Even the mountains, which are the kind of highest peak of revealed land, now were covered with water. We go back to the primordial soup. And of course, you then have the uncreation recreated. What you have in chapter 8 and 9 is the reversal of the uncreation. You had creation in chapter 1 and 2 of Genesis. You have the uncreation in chapter 6 and 7. And now you have the recreation in chapter 8, which starts with God remembered Noah and everyone in the Teva. Vaya'aver Elohim ruach al haaretz. God brought the wind over the land, just like V'ruach Elokim merachefet al pnei haaretz at the beginning of Genesis 1. The Bible tells us that the water started to come down until finally, in verse 5 of chapter 8, we see the tops of the mountain. All of a sudden, the world is exposed again. The land is slowly starting to emerge as the waters are receding. And then the Bible tells us about the birds going, first the raven and then the dove, which is, of course, the beginning of the population is not only in the ark, but the animals are also, the birds are going to be recreated and be able to function. And they find, the dove, of course, finds some aleh zayit, finds an olive branch. The dove finds vegetation. It's the reversal. Creation is happening once again. And of course, it's interesting that the word night and day are introduced for the first time in this context. Vayachel od shivat yamim. And the Bible also talks about the fact that the Yonah comes back towards, and he comes back towards the evening. Vayishlach yado, vayachel od shivat yamim. The Yonah comes back, the dove comes back towards evening. We have evening and day, we have the sun and the moon again. That which kind of was disappeared during the period of the Mabul. And of course it ends with the waters once again dry, the land, and then they can go out, and the animals and human beings go out, and then God blesses them. Vayivarech Elohim et Noach v'et banav in chapter 9. Pru'ervu milu et haaretz. And once again, the world is recreated. This time, of course, it's given more guidance. This time, law is introduced. It's not just some generic law, but there are specific laws. For human beings to survive, they need more guidance. They need more law. And God says you should do this, and murder is explicitly outlawed. And human courts are going to have to take responsibility. God is not going to always step in. Shofech dam ba'adam, damo yishafech ki b'tzelem Elokim. It's a different world. It's a world where meat is now permitted. It's a world where the relationship between animal and human is different. They don't live in the perfect harmony that they did. It's different. It's a world that needs to be recreated with a new society, a new law. I think, during the course of this year, with the pandemic and with Corona, our whole relationship to the world, I think many of us felt very much on a high in certain ways. Entering into 2020, there was a lot of good things. There was also a lot of challenges. But the world was, so to speak, at its peak. And there was a kind of destruction of the old world. There was a kind of mabul, a kind of destruction, a lot of death, a lot of suffering, a lot of taking away the old away. And we're in the process. Im Yirtzeh Hashem, hopefully we are in the process in the next months and year of the reversal of that destruction, of being able to get a handle, of seeing a world that will be recreated. That's what our goal is by next Parshat Noach. We want to see the world recreated, the beginning of recreation, of drawing out. But in that new world, there's going to be new relationships between animals and human beings, new relationship between us and the environment, new relationship in how we interact with other people. More distance, but at the same time, hopefully more responsibility. More stewardship of the land together with more tension with animals. How we react, how we build. What kind of rebuilt world will we create as we emerge, in many ways, from our cocoons? For many of us, we were in tevot, we were in the arks, trying to protect ourselves from the raging winds and the raging storms and the mabul around us. Hopefully, in the next weeks and months, we will begin once again to recreate the world. But it'll be new and old. It'll be based on the past, but it will have new relationships. It will be a new, brave new world, so to speak. And hopefully it'll be a world where there will be bracha, and we'll be blessed with God's blessing of Pru'avu Miluat Haaretz. We'll be blessed with Revuba, and we'll be blessed with a world that we can exist and flourish and ultimately enter into even deeper relationship with God and human beings, which is what emerges ultimately from Parshat Noach. There's Brit, there's a new relationship, and ultimately, at the end of Parshat Noach, the birth of Avraham and the birth of Am Yisrael. Shabbat Shalom, and hope to see as many of you as we can on Shabbat.